morning or good afternoon. Welcome to the VA Vortex. And today we're talking about how you can build a killer routine to build your virtual assistant business. If it's your first time here, hello, my name is Rebecca Morassutti and I am a virtual assistant mentor and business growth strategist. I've been in the VA industry for over 10 years now, and I built a highly successful, freedom-based, sustainable virtual assistant business that brought me in over $100K a year, might I add. And I ran that for 10 years until I decided that I can't just keep this to myself. I need to help other women do it too. And that's why I'm here, and that's why you're here, right? To learn. So, today's VA Vortex training is all about building a routine, but it's not just about building any old routine, okay? It's about how you can actually build a routine into your current life, okay? Your current life, your current routine. Maybe you don't even have a routine, or you don't call it a routine. How you can build a piece of your business every single day. Okay, that is going to be our goal. So when we talk about building daily routines, a lot of the videos that I see are like for people who are already virtual assistants. They're already working and they want to figure out how they can have time to work on their business while also working on their client's business. And, you know, there's a time and a place for that. But if you don't have clients yet, that's not going to help you. How can we actually start to make adjustments to our current day-to-day that will actually allow us to have more time to build our VA business? If you're like me, I was building my business as I was in a 9-to-5 job. I did not just get up and quit my job. That's not something I recommend anybody do unless you have the financial means to do so, or maybe you've been laid off and you don't really have a choice. But generally speaking, having an exit strategy and being able to transition out of your 9-to-5, out of your corporate job in a way that actually feels good and secure is my goal for you. That's my goal for you. Now, when it comes to, sorry guys, I've got little hairs everywhere. Now, when it comes to actually starting to build your business, you may feel right now like you don't have any time to build a business, right? I remember I felt like I had I'm like, when am I even going to do this? When do I have time? I'm working all the time. By the time I get home from work, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do anything else other than just sit on my couch and binge Netflix like I did every single night. Sometimes I didn't even have the energy to make dinner. Let's be honest. I'd get Uber Eats or just pick up some McDonald's or, bad habits. Okay. But it was really because I was so exhausted from my 9-to-5. And I remember when I was considering building a business, I was like, how am I actually even going to do this? How am I going to build a business when I barely have any energy to even go out for dinner with my friends? So I think that we feel like we don't have any time in our day, right? We don't have any extra time in our day. But the reality is that there is time. You just have to make that time. Okay. It's like anything else that you want to do. Now, again, you may have a hard time actually making time for things, right? Like maybe you haven't been able to make time for yoga for the last 2 weeks, or maybe 2 months, or maybe 2 years. If I'm being honest, I should say. The thing is that we need to understand what our priorities are, and we need to make the space to actually take action. Now, I'm sure you've heard me, say in multiple different places that you can't build a successful VA business if you're only spending 15 minutes every other week doing it. Straight up, you can't do it. You can't do it. No entrepreneur has ever built a successful business like that. So you need to understand what areas of your life can you start pulling from and maybe making sacrifices in. All right. So the very first thing I want you to think of right now when we're thinking about developing this routine is like, am I an evening person, a night person, or am I a morning person? Okay. That's the first decision I want you to make. And I want you to make it right now. Are you a morning person or are you an evening person? Now, once you have that decision made, I want you to think about what either your morning or evening currently looks like. Now, for me personally, I'm a morning person. So I'm definitely way more of a morning person now, but even back in the day when I was working a corporate job, I would get up at like 7 to get ready for work. And maybe sometimes I may even try to go to the gym or if I had to go into work early, I would be there early. And I like that. Like by the end of the day, once it gets dark out, my energy is just depleted. So for me, I was a morning person. I still am a morning person. You may not be a morning person. You may have a lot of energy at night, but whatever your decision is, you now need to understand if you can wake up earlier or you can stay up later. And this may not be what you wanted to hear, but it's the truth, okay? It's the truth. Now again, does this mean you need to wake up at 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m.? No, of course it doesn't. Of course not, right? But what you need to start doing is you need to start either waking up earlier or staying up slightly later if you can't let go of anything else. Okay, so we're gonna get there in a second. And you need to make at least 30 minutes of dedicated time every single day to start working on your business. You need to find 30 minutes of time. Now I want you to start thinking about, okay, when I wake up, what do I do in the first 30 minutes of my time? Before I go to bed, what do I do in that 30 minutes before I actually go to bed? And if we're being honest, are you on Instagram scrolling for 30 minutes? Are you watching Netflix before bed? If you just replaced the time that you spent scrolling or going on Netflix with building your business, you would be able to build your business. I pretty much can guarantee you that at this point, okay, in this society. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, but I don't want to have to give up Instagram. Well, guess what? If we're being honest here, Instagram's not really serving you, okay? And I think you know that. And really, neither is Netflix, unless you're like watching documentaries all the time, which, hey, maybe you are. I watch documentaries, it's great. But I also know there are lots of times where I'm just lazy. There are lots of times where I'm just lazy. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Well, guess what, guys? Guess what? You're going to need to push through that laziness in order to start your business. So in terms of building this routine, the very first thing we need to figure out, like I said, is the time that you're going to actually be able to commit to building this business. There needs to be time that you can dedicate every single day to building this business. Now, what are you actually going to do within that time? Well, if it's a 30-minute block of time, right? Ideally, it would be more, but sure, let's start with 30 minutes. If it's a 30-minute block of time, you should be focusing that 30 minutes on one thing and one thing only. And that 30 minutes should be focused on you trying to land a client. Now, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Well, this is where a more detailed routine comes in. Because if you always have to think about, what am I going to do to find a client? Where am I going to find them? You're going to get so overwhelmed with all the things that you need to do that you're not actually going to do them. So here's exactly what you're going to do with that 30 minutes. Here's exactly what you're going to do with that 30 minutes, okay? We're going to break it out into 10-minute increments. So there's going to be 3 things that you're going to do during this 30 minutes. 30-minute routine that you're going to do every single day. Okay? The first 10 minutes, I want you to go on Instagram. I know I'm contradicting myself, but bear with me here. Go back on Instagram, okay? Not scrolling, not consuming, okay? And you want to find business owners that you potentially want to work with. And I want you to look at online business owners, okay? I want you to look at business coaches. I want you to look at fitness, trainers, fitness people, instructors. Maybe they have their own app. I want you to look at influencers. I want you to look at course creators. I want you to look at speakers, public speakers. I want you to try to find online businesses. I want you to follow them. And then I don't just want you to follow them. I want you to comment on one of their posts, and I want you to make sure that you're turning on the notifications for their stories. Okay? So that's what you're going to do in your first 10 minutes. During that 10 minutes, you can even set a timer, and you're going to try to find as many of those kinds of business owners as you possibly can during that first 10 minutes. Okay? Then we have our second 10-minute block. And our second 10-minute block is going to be spent on LinkedIn. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did, but we're going to do it on LinkedIn. So you're going to log into LinkedIn and you're going to try to find business owners that you potentially want to work with. Now, if you don't want to start there, you could also start with even just reaching out to people in your current network and telling them that you're starting a VA business. That's another way you can go about using LinkedIn as well. Okay, so you could even flip back and forth. Maybe day 1, day A, you're reaching out to new people, and day B, you're reaching out to people that you already know. Okay, you're sending them messages, you're making connections. Now, the last 10 minutes is going to be spent on Upwork. So you're going to need an Upwork profile for this. So if you have not built an Upwork profile yet, it's very easy to do. It's very quick to do. Okay. So go on maybe your first 10-minute block for your first, let's say 3 days. It'll probably take you like half an hour. Whip up a LinkedIn, an Upwork profile. It doesn't even need to be that legit. Just start with something. Okay. So you can start making the connections. Then once you have that profile built, you're going to spend 10 minutes looking at positions on Upwork, and you're going to start reaching out to people on Upwork to find that next position. And that is the routine that you're going to do every single day until you land your first client. That's it. Okay. A 30-minute routine, 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute. If you can commit to this, you will land your first client. Okay. It's that easy. But what is going to be the hardest part of this is you actually committing to doing that every single day. That's going to be the hardest part. But that would be, if I only had 30 minutes, that would be my optimal routine, my daily routine for building my VA business. I wouldn't spend any time on creating an Instagram account, or any time creating a website, or learning about niches, or, listing out services or anything like that. Logos, branding, business bank account. Don't need any of that. The only thing you need to do is find your first client. Find your first client, and all the other things will come after that. Okay? So that's what you got to do. Decide if you're a morning or night person. Okay. Make an extra half an hour happen. Maybe you need to cut out something. Maybe you need to wake up earlier. Half an hour consistently. Break it down. 10 minutes reaching out to people on Instagram. 10 minutes reaching out to people on LinkedIn. 10 minutes reaching out to people on Upwork. Okay. Do it fast. We don't need to spend a ton of time. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for quantity. Okay. Start there. Let me know how that routine goes. And when you land your first client, send me an email. Can't wait to celebrate with you. Bye for now.